All right, dog lovers, you ready for this?
Let's do it.
So we're diving into Canine First Aid today. Got a podcast episode here all about being that awesome pup parent who can handle like anything, you know?
Yeah, totally. Being prepared for those emergencies, it can make all the difference.
Absolutely. It's like peace of mind, right? Knowing you can jump in and help your furry friend if something happens.
Exactly.
And this podcast, it doesn't mess around. Jumps right into it with poisoning.
Yeah, I mean, dogs, they get into everything.
Seriously. It's like their mission in life.
Right. And it's not just, you know, the obvious stuff like chocolate, although that's a big one, of course. But this podcast, it mentions things I never even thought about, like xylitol.
Xylitol.
Yeah, it's like an artificial sweetener. You find it in sugar-free gum, some candies. And for dogs, it's like super toxic. Even tiny amounts can be really bad.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. So, okay, let's say the worst happens. Your dog eats something they shouldn't. What's the first thing you do?
While the podcast really stresses acting quickly, time is super important, but don't just like automatically try to make your dog throw up.
Really? I always thought that was like the go-to move.
It seems like it, right? But inducing vomiting, it can actually make things worse.
How so?
Well, like some things, if they come back up, they can do even more damage on the way out. Certain cleaners, for example, they can be like really corrosive.
So like burning their esophagus twice.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no home remedies, right?
Got it. So what do you do instead? Phone a friend.
Basically. Have your vet's number, the ASPCA Animal Poison Control hotline. Those are your lifelines. They'll know exactly what to do based on what your dog ate.
So quick action, but informed action.
Exactly.
Okay, makes sense. Now, what about another common one? Cuts and wounds. Those happen all the time.
Yeah, totally. Playful pups exploring the world. It's bound to happen.
Exactly. And this podcast has some good tips on basic wound care. I was surprised, though, it's not just about rinsing with water.
Right. Water is good, but saline solution, even better.
Saline solution, like this stuff for contacts.
Yeah. It flushes out debris better and like makes it harder for bacteria to hang around.
Huh. So saline solution first. Then what?
Then protect that wound. And this is where it gets interesting. The podcast says no human ointments.
Seriously?
Yeah. I always thought a little Neosporin would be fine, but apparently not so much.
Why not?
Well, dogs, they lick their wounds, right? And lots of human medications are toxic to them if they swallow them. Plus, some ointments can actually slow down healing.
Wow. So just a plain gauze or clean cloth until you can get to the vet.
Yep.
All right, good to know. Now, let's talk about a situation that I think every dog owner dreads. Choking.
Yeah, it's definitely scary.
It is. And knowing what to do in those first few moments, it can literally save your dog's life.
Absolutely. But the podcast makes a really good point. It's important to observe before you, jump into action.
What do you mean?
Well, sometimes dogs, they might cough and sputter a bit, but they can actually dislodge the object themselves. You know?
Yeah, okay, so give them a second to trip.
Exactly. But if their gums start turning blue, if they're really struggling to breathe, then you need to act fast.
Okay, so what do you do?
If you can see the object and reach it safely, you can try to remove it. Carefully, of course. But if it's lodged deeper, you might need to do like a modified Heimlich maneuver.
It's a Heimlich maneuver.
Yeah.
On a dog.
Yeah, the podcast talks about that. But it's really important to learn the right technique. Doing it wrong can actually hurt your dog.
Yeah, that makes sense. So where can people learn how to do that?
There are some great resources online, like videos and stuff that show you the safe way to do it.
Okay, so with choking, it's observe, then act, and know when to call for help.
Exactly.
It seems like that's a recurring theme, actually, with all of this. Knowing your limits and when to call the vet.
Absolutely. And speaking of being prepared, the podcast wraps up with a section on first aid kits.
Oh, yeah, good point. Like a mini emergency room for your pup.
Right. And they list all the things you should have in it. Gauze, bandages, antiseptic wipes, blunt-ended scissors.
Okay, standard stuff.
Yeah. But then they also mention things like a rectal thermometer, styptic powder.
What's styptic powder?
It helps stop bleeding.
Oh, okay.
And a muzzle.
A muzzle. Seems a little intense.
Well, you know, even the sweetest dog, if they're hurt and scared, they might react defensively.
True. Better safe than sorry, I guess.
Right. And of course, having your vet's number and that poison control number, super important. They even suggest taking a pet first aid course.
Wow, so you can really be prepared.
Yeah.
This has been really eye-opening. Honestly, I feel so much more ready to handle any emergency now.
Me too. And what I found interesting is how much of this overlaps with basic human first aid. The principles are the same, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Stay calm, assess the situation, act quickly.
Exactly.
Well, everyone, go build those first aid kits, learn those techniques, and remember, a prepared owner, that's a dog's best friend.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Keep those tails wagging.